Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's no doubt that the absence of a fully functioning national crime agency in Northern Ireland will have a negative effect and impact upon our ability to deal with serious crime, no matter what others may say. And in reference to its predecessor, SOCA, I did have the privilege of hosting an event for them here in Parliament buildings so that they could explain the workings of that organisation to those who wish to come and listen. Anyone who doubts that just needs to look at the facts from last year. People trafficked into Northern Ireland from across the globe for sexual exploitation and domestic servitude, extortion, money lending, robbery, contraband, burglary from paramilitaries and nearly 4,500 drug seizures. These are problems that are not unique to Northern Ireland. Indeed, they are international issues that demand an international response. And the NCA offers that response, working, as the Home Office says, to connect the efforts of local policing and neighbourhood action to national agencies and action overseas to coordinate the fight against some of the United Kingdom's most harmful criminals. And we shouldn't be under any illusion that those harmful criminals also operate in this jurisdiction, and that our police service is isolated and has its one hand tied behind its back in attempting to deal with these matters. I have made this case strongly in this House before when we discussed the matter on the 4th of February, and the arguments have been thoroughly discussed, both in this House and behind the scenes since then. The question, Mr. Speaker, with it now being October and the NCA having gone live last week, is how do we move this debate forward to find a solution that is satisfactory to allow an LCM to pass? The Minister has already secured important, significant concessions about how the NCA would operate in Northern Ireland, taking into account our local issues and sensitivities. He has been working extremely hard to address concerns about accountability. Those discussions have been going on for months. While the time was available, that was fair enough. But we're no longer talking about some hypothetical situation. What might happen if we don't have an LCM in place before the NCA begins operation? Well, Mr. Speaker, we're now in that situation, where we have no means available to us in Northern Ireland to go after the assets gained through criminal behaviour that might be taking place as we debate this motion today. This is now, and this is real, and we need to get a political agreement to block the gaps that exist. Yes, I will.
Thank the member for giving way, and I'm sure the member who will recognise and agree with the PSNI when they state in their preamble to the PSNI or the Policing Board's Human Rights Report that the fundamental building blocks for community confidence and the delivery of effective policing are human rights and accountability. So then, will the Alliance Party join with us in ensuring that that accountability mechanism is reached?
Thank you. Well, Mr. Speaker, of course, the question that we're dealing with today is it possible to deal with everyone's concerns? And will everybody be entirely happy with every aspect of how the NCA operates? That's what's been discussed and debated both here today and behind the scenes for several months. That's what remains to be seen following today's debate. But we have to weigh up and balance between not getting every last dot of what we want and not being able to tackle serious and organised criminality. These issues need to be resolved, and they need to be resolved as a matter of urgency. May I make reference briefly, Mr. Speaker, to the amendments? I do not feel that we can support either of the amendments on the grounds that neither recognise what is required or possible under the devolution settlement. The SDLP, on the one hand, are calling on the Minister of Justice to bring forward amendments to legislation, which he cannot do. What he can do is work with the Home Secretary to seek such amendments, but that will require a firm indication from this Assembly and the Assembly parties that they will support some measures through a legislative consent motion. So again, we come back to the need to urgently reach political agreement here among ourselves. The Ulster Unionist Party amendment, somewhat incredibly, causing Her Majesty's Government to do something which they can't do without an LCM being passed by this Assembly. Therefore, to summarise, Mr. Speaker, we have more to gain than to lose by having the NCA working here in the devolved arena. There are concerns, and those concerns some of which have been resolved, others need to be continued to be dealt with. The Minister and his officials have worked hard and innovatively to address concerns around accountability. The time for that debate is fast drawing to a close. Parties now need to work together to finalise a package of measures that would allow us all to move forward and support an LCM. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Jonathan Craig.